Hello! Today we are throwing it back to a classic kind of video on my channel, going through one of my custom palettes. This time we're going through the custom palette that I've been playing with all winter long. So if you want to see all of the shades in this custom palette swatched out, then go ahead and just keep on watching and subscribe. Before we get into it, this video was specifically requested by you all after my nail polish for winter video. If you haven't seen that, I will link it in the description if you want to check it out. I right now am wearing one of the most chaotic Skittle manis of all time, featuring 10 of the shades from that video. So I will go over what all of them are at the end, but if you have guesses, if you've already seen that other video, leave your guesses down in the comments. Now let's get into some swatches of beautiful eyeshadows. When I think of a winter palette, to me, I'm picturing icy, cool tones, and so I really wanted to lean into that and kind of focus on blues, purples, and a couple of neutrals, because it wouldn't be me if there wasn't some sort of neutral look I could do on the palette. I feel like in the pan, some of these shades look more similar than I think they do once they're swatched out, but you guys will have to let me know as we go through. To get us started, we are going to swatch this beautiful cool gray base with a blue to pink to gold to even a little bit green on the most extreme edges shade. This is from Sydney Grace and it is called Birthday Girl. It is one of their multi-chromes. Honestly, I'm not sure if they're still selling these. I have not been on the Sydney Grace website in quite a while. This one is really unique though. As always, struggle to capture the most extreme shifts, but hopefully you can see that it does have like a pretty true cool gray base with that blue face on that then goes to pink, and then like I said, peachy gold and even green, but you know me, I can't really capture those very far edge shifts. Next to that, we have the Shine by SD shade Oracle. This was gifted to me from my friend Riley, aka Seeking Shifts. It's got a really pretty deep bluish purple base. It is like purpley, but there is definitely a lot of blue undertone in that purple. And then on top, you can see it goes from like this pink to gold to green kind of sparkle. This to me has a finer particle size, but it is still sparkly. I did a couple of looks on camera for this palette, and so at the end I'll pop them up as a little bit of eye candy for those of you that stick around, and you can see this shade in action on my eyes. But this one, I'm able to capture these really extreme shifts pretty easily, so that just shows you how truly shifty it really is. This next shade, our first matte, is a really deep blue with a little bit of a purpley undertone. This is depotted from the Simply Posh Cozy Cabin palette, and this was given to me from my friend Olivia, aka Strawberry Mermaid Beauty. I guess I should take a moment to interject and say that if you haven't seen my custom palette videos before, the way that I like to try to build these palettes is thinking of them as a quad look, and also I try as hard as I can to make each row kind of work as a look too, though sometimes it works out better than others. Now we've got this really flaky, sparkly beauty from Pretties for Your Face. This is the shade Arctic Blast, and it looks really purple, but that base color is way sheerer when actually like applied on the eyes or swatched out. I think you can kind of see that here. That base is just very, very light and definitely a little bit flakier. But really, the star of the show is on top. It has this beautiful blue to pink sparkle, and it is fabulous. I've got a lot of these purple with a blue shimmer kind of shades. The reason why I chose this one in particular is one, I wanted to try to spread out what brands I was using for this palette and get to, enjoy a lot of my different favorite brands. But two is that because this is so sheer, I was hoping to use it as a highlighting shade as well. And I did do that on one of the looks I filmed, so you will see what that looks like here shortly. Though I'm not currently supporting Terra Moons, the shade Lunar Lavender still is one of my absolute favorites. It is a real beauty. This has a warm purple base, leaning almost, I don't know how to describe it, like taupey almost in the base, like a warm taupe. And then on top, it's got this multicolored sparkle that has a little bit of a shift from like a blue to a silvery pink. But really, the multicolored sparkle throughout the shade in its entirety is what makes this so special. To round out our top row, this is the Pastel Roses shade Glamour. It is a really beautiful silvery taupe shade with a ton of sparkle. And again, something almost a little pink about this sparkle. Here's that base color. Hopefully you can see a little bit more how that's just way more of like a grayish true taupe compared to the purpley base in Lunar Lavender, but both are very, very pretty. At this point, some of these eyeshadows in my collection are getting pretty freaking old, and I've had some people ask me about the quality. I just wanted to throw in really quick that for all of these eyeshadows, I find that they still apply very well. They look great on the eyes. I don't smell anything suspicious or see anything suspicious in the pans as far as I can see. So I'm still using them and loving them. And if you were curious, particularly about Pastel Roses, since they've had issues in the past with shades going off quickly, I've had these for over a year. I don't even remember how long, and they still are fine to me. This second row is way more matte heavy, and I'm looking at the amount of arm I have left compared to the amount of shades and thinking that that's not looking so good. So for these mattes, I'm only going to do like a half arm swatch for each of them and kind of stack them together because, we're not looking for shifts or anything, so the mattes aren't as exciting and we don't need the full arm to catch all of their glory. This first shade is a really deep, reddy plum brown, and this again is depotted from that same Simply Posh Cozy Cabin palette. Next, we have this cool light blue that lives somewhere between a sky blue and a periwinkle in my mind. It's not quite purple enough to be a true periwinkle, but it's not blue enough to be a sky blue. This is the shade Wisteria Wisps from Dandelions Co. And I know Hannah from Hot Vegan Hannah has tried out the Dandelions Co. mattes in the past, and she didn't love them. I do find that they are pigmented, but they need to be built up. I kind of think of this formula as like working with watercolors. I'm not sure if you can see how it blends to be very sheer compared to that really packed swatch. It can be built, and I did use the shade in one of the looks that I did, but just know if you're looking for straight up pigment right off the bat, this might not be a formula you like, but if you like something a little bit more buildable and in my mind a little bit more user-friendly, then I do really enjoy the Dandelions shades that I have. Now we have the only shimmer in this entire row, but man, is it a good one. This is Moon Mirror from Quicksand Cosmetics, and in the nail polish video I did, I mentioned one of the nail polishes has a shift in it that has become really popular in the indie eyeshadow community, and this is the shift that I'm talking about. So it goes from like kind of a silvery color with like a touch of, again, something pink in it, to a really strong tealy kind of blue on the edges. I am capturing it a little bit like subtly, but I'm not able to capture how truly shifty this one is. You can kind of see on my finger though how it is like something about it is a little pinky purple. Moving back into mattes, and though the majority of this palette is pretty desaturated, I thought that this really vibrant, almost neon purple from Nomad worked so well. It just added a little bit of life to this wintry palette. This is the shade Violet Saberwing, and it's from when they were doing singles for like half a second. I don't think that they are anymore, but you know, matte shades are pretty easy to find, so you don't need this specific purple, but any vibrant purple if you want to recreate this palette would do. This next purple is a deep purple, but way more muted. This is actually called Deep Purple, and it's from Shine by SD, and I'm hoping that you can kind of see how these tones compare to each other here. Some people might say that these are too similar to be in the same palette, but I feel like I use them different. I'm gonna jump a little bit out of order so that way I can swatch these last two mattes together. The grayish purpley matte that I have here is Regal from Sydney Grace. It is a really pretty medium light kind of shade, I would say, with a lot of gray in it, though this definitely is still a purple overall in my mind. And then we've got another Sydney Grace shade. This one is depotted, and I'm not quite sure which specific palette it's depotted from because I have quite a few depotted Sydney Grace palettes by this point. But you can see that it's just a cool toned deep brown, which to me rounds out this palette really well. So I've got a little bit of a warmer brown, a cooler brown, and I can take my neutral looks in a couple of different ways. Moving back into sparkly goodness, we've got a ultimate cult classic shade. This is Mystic Moonpie from Devinah. It has a warm reddish brown base with a silvery blue to slightly pink duochrome on top. This is one of those kind of classic blue-brown duochromes, and this to me is a little bit more neutral than some of the more cyan-leaning versions of this kind of shade, and so that is why it's so special. And that icier silvery blue on top just feels like it works so well for the winter time. I had to do a little bit of surgery on this shade. This is Skink from Glaminarix Cosmetics. It's a part of their Glistening Creatures line that they've been doing for a while. And out of all of them, this is probably my favorite from the line. I have quite a few of them. This one is oh man, how do you describe this shade? It has a multicolored sparkle in it that has silver, blue, and pink. It does shift a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see when I kind of get out of focus that the edge gets a little bit pink, but it's definitely, again, one of those shades that has more of a multicolored sparkle than a straight up shift. The base color in this is warmer than the other shade that I have that's kind of similar from Pastel Roses. This one, again, I'm trying really hard to tilt my arm. We're getting kind of to a weird angle. It is just a little bit warmer, though, than the other when you're looking at it face on. All right, I zoomed out a little bit more to give us room for these last three shades. This one, say it with me now. Looxi Beauty Painted Lady, gone but not forgotten. I never ended up making a video specifically about Looxi shutting down when they did last year. Honestly, by the time that happened, I was so burnt out on doing YouTube, and so I never got around to it. I think that the way that they closed is honestly kind of the way that I would expect Looxi to close, because they always were bad with communication. But I feel so bad for anyone who had orders out, and I hope you all got your money back. My love for the brand was tainted by the way that they went out, but I still do use my Looxi shades quite a bit because I think that they're great, and I really wish that they were still around. This shade is, again, what I would say is a classic from Looxi. This has a pretty true, like, purple primary. I mean, purple's not a primary, but as true of a purple as I can think of in the base color. And then on top, it's got a shift kind of similar to Oracle that we swatched all the way up here. Although this one, instead of starting pink, it starts gold and then goes green, blue. So it's just a little bit less shifty overall than that shade Oracle. If you are looking for something like this, now that Looxi is gone, it's way more expensive, but the shade Royalty from Cleona has a very similar base color and shift. To round us out, we've got two Copacetic Cosmetics shades. This first one is Malware, and I think that this is like the more magical version of Luxi Ube from back in the day. So if you're looking for a dupe for that, this is a good one. It has a very soft pastel purple base, pretty sheer though. So, you know, I would use this more as an inner corner shade. You can see straight on it's got that really vivid green shimmer, but it shifts to a pretty strong pink. Where I am sitting, I can see the pink shift, but I'm looking on my camera and you totally can't. Oh, wait, there she blows. Gotta go out of focus a little bit, but you can kind of see that shift right there. Maybe I can capture it on my finger a little bit better. Not really, but I do promise that there is a really strong pink shift in this one. And again, does this just not look like winter in a single eyeshadow? Finally, the last shade to round out this palette is Copacetic Cosmetics Iron Throne. This is a shade that I have sung the praises of for a long time on my channel. It is a flaky, shimmery kind of shade, very taupey silver. The base is much deeper than some of these other shades that I've got that are kind of in that taupe family. And this one has that silver sparkle as well as an additional blue sparkle. It is a weird angle, I do admit, but here is the swatches of the full eyeshadow palette all together. I'm trying my hardest to turn my arm so you can see both the base colors and the shifts in all of these shades, but I also don't want to break my elbow. So hopefully you can kind of get a glimpse of everything here all together. I had some pretty good natural sunlight coming through my house, and so I wanted to show you these with natural sunlight so that way you can see the sparkles in all of their glory. Look at that. Ugh, so beautiful. For this video, I filmed two finished eye looks specifically to give you an idea of the kind of looks that I've been doing with this palette. I have been using this palette more frequently than just the two looks, but I've been trying to not pressure myself into filming or documenting all of my makeup looks because I found that it's kind of taken away a love that I had for makeup to commodify my hobby so extremely. And so I only have these two looks to show you, but let me walk you through them. So for the first look, I decided to use this blue kind of quad here. So I put this shade Wisteria Wisps from Dandelions Co. all over the crease, pretty fluffed out. And then I built up the outer corner with this depotted shade from Simply Posh. All over the lid, I just rubbed Oracle everywhere and really tried to space it out to get as much dimension and therefore shift on my eye at once as possible. And then lastly, on the brow bone and the inner corner, I used Quicksand Moon Mirror. For the second look, I hopped around a little bit more. I used all of the shades in this very last row. So I started off by putting Regal from Sydney Grace all over the crease and then kind of fluffed it into the outer corner as well. And then I put the shade Iron Throne from Copacetic Cosmetics on the outer half of my lid, and the shade Glamour from Pastel Roses UK on the inner half to kind of give it a little bit of a natural gradient. These two shades both have a silvery sparkle, but the base colors and overall depth of them are kind of different, and so they kind of work together to blend out easily, but to give me some natural dimension. After layering those two shimmers, I went with the shade Violet Saberwing from Nomad Cosmetics, and I put that as a kind of thick, vibrant, colorful liner situation on the outer edge of my eye. I also dusted the shade Regal very lightly underneath my eye, and I should have said I did the same for my blue look as well. And then lastly, for that silvery purple look, I used the shade Arctic Blast from Pretties for Your Face as both an inner corner and brow bone highlight. I really hope that you all enjoyed kind of getting a sneak peek at my current custom palette that I've been playing around with. I have been still loving building and using palettes with my single shadows, even though I haven't been making videos with them. Like I said, I kind of wanted to love eyeshadow for the sake of loving eyeshadow again and not for making content, and taking that break from talking about my eyeshadows really helped me to feel no pressure in like what I was using and just kind of explore and play with my makeup the way that I used to and the way that made me fall in love with makeup in the first place. So for those of you who waited around, I promised you I would tell you what all of these shades are from my nail polish video. So we're gonna go hand by hand real quick and go over what shades they are. First, we have So Fresh and So Preen from Bluebird. And like I said in that video, this one is shifty as heck. Next up, we have Glamour Glitz from Cirque Colors, and though this is a sheer polish, you can see I built this up in 3 coats, and on my little tiny short fingernails, it still looks pretty opaque. Oh, Constellation from LA Colors, the best $3 you can spend on nail polish. So pretty. Oh So Clear from Emily de Molly, and you can kind of see that like taupey base I was talking about in that last video with the green to blue shift. This also built up in 3 coats. And then on my little pinky, we have Bluebell from ILNP with that fiery shift and cool blue base, as well as a hollow sparkle. Over on this side, we have Mooncat, A Most Destructive Melody. Still struggling to show all of the shifts in this one, but I promise it is so shifty IRL. Then we have Where the Mountains Sing from Night Owl Lacquer. I put this next to the green because I was like, oh, gray, blue, pink. Very different from green. It'll look great with next to the Skittle. But somehow it's pulling out the green in Where the Mountains Sing. Here we have Forever, and sorry, I'm not trying to flick you off, but we have Forever from ILNP, and I don't have my flash on, so you can't see that magical hollow in the ultra metallic finish right now. This is my other LA Colors shade from my suggestions for winter. This is Crystal Pink, and look how sparkly. I wanted to have these two metallics next to each other so you could see the metallic formulas in comparison. And on my pinky, we have the Thermal Never Found It. Right now, I'm running pretty warm, so it's like not as bright of a green as it can go, but it definitely is more green than black in the base. Let me know, what kind of eyeshadow have you been using during these winter months? Something cool and icy to reflect the potential weather depending on where you live, or something sparkly, sheer, something bright and colorful to fight those winter blues. Let me know whatever you've been using down below, and until I see you next time, I hope that you stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. Bye!